Hey everyone, Alpha Eagle here again. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well and may God bless you all. Many people will remember the X-Men cartoon from the 90s, but some people might not know that the X-Men have been in animation long before that. The earliest example I could find is a guest appearance on a Submariner cartoon, which is part of the Marvel Superheroes animated series from 1966, which also included episodes starring Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor. It would be nearly 20 years later that the X-Men would make their next animated cameo in the 1981 animated series Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. The members of the X-Men, or X-Men villains, appeared in 5 episodes titled Sunfire, The Prison Plot, The Origin of the Iceman, A Firestar is Born, and The X-Men Adventure. Then finally, in 1989, we get the very first X-Men cartoon in which the X-Men were the stars and not just cameo characters. The pilot episode was titled Pryde of the X-Men. Unfortunately, the pilot failed and it was never a series. If the roster looks familiar, it might be because you remember them from the X-Men arcade game, which was based off of this pilot. The cast was great, with many of the actors appearing in some major 80s animated series such as G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Michael Bell played Cyclops, who also voiced Duke from G.I. Joe. Earl Bowen played Magneto, who was also Taurus from G.I. Joe. Pat Fraley played Pyro, who was also Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Dan Gilvezan played Colossus, who was also Spider-Man from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, as well as Bumblebee from the Transformers. Alan Oppenheimer played Blob, and he was also Skeletor, Man-at-Arms, Cringer, Battlecat, and many others on He-Man. Neil Ross played Nightcrawler, who was also Shipwreck from G.I. Joe, as well as Green Goblin on both Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and Spider-Man the Animated Series from the 90s. Kath Sochi played Kitty Pryde. She's best known as Phil and Lil from Rugrats. John Stevenson played Professor X. He was a voice actor for decades, going as far back as playing Mr. Slate from the Flintstones in the 60s. And of course, Frank Welker was in this, and since he's in every animated series ever, I'm exaggerating of course, but he's been Fred from Scooby-Doo, Megatron from Transformers, Iceman from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And in this pilot he played Toad in Lockheed. And his rendition of Toad is an impersonation of Peter Lorre, who happened to be the inspiration for Toad. In my opinion, Pryde of the X-Men is a very underrated pilot episode. I'll go so far as to say that it's even better than the X-Men animated series from the 90s. Yeah, I said it. It's better than the X-Men animated series from the 90s. The character designs are better, the animation is better. As I said, the voice cast is excellent. Even something as simple as the colors chosen for the animation is better. And yes, I even like the theme song more than the 90s cartoon. Many would say that the writing and story of the 90s cartoon was what made it great. I'm about to point out something that many people don't notice or refuse to notice, which makes the story from Pryde of the X-Men even better than the 90s X-Men series. Take a look at this clip in which Blob and Pyro have a family hostage and the X-Men save them.
Look out!
Here you are, Liebchen.
Thank you.
Hey, stay away, you filthy mutants!
Blob and Pyro got what they came for.
Okay, anything unique about that clip? Some might point out that even though the family was saved by mutants, they are still bigoted against them. And yes, that's true, and that's a very important message of this clip, but there is something else there that you might not have noticed. Sure, the X-Men experienced bigotry from this family, but that happens all the time in X-Men comics and cartoons. What is unique and even ironic about this situation? I'll play the clip again, just in case you didn't pick up on the subtle irony.
Look out!
Here you are, Liebchen.
Thank you.
Hey, stay away, you filthy mutants!
Blob and Pyro Pyro got what they came for.
So, did you notice what's unique about this family? Notice that it is a black family. Some will say, so what? So, black people have historically faced bigotry in the past. Now they are the ones being the bigots in this episode. This clip shows that even black people can be racist bigots. This episode would never see the light of day if it was made today. The left want to maintain the lie that black people can't be racists. Now, I don't know if this was the intentional message of this scene, but it was brilliantly subtle and very well done. And that's one reason why I say this episode is better than the 90s animated series. The 90s animated X-Men series was much more blatant and in your face with its message of anti-bigotry. And as far as I can remember, it never showed black people as the bigots. It was always white people shown as the evil bigots in the 90s series. Black people were never shown to be bigoted in that series. Another thing I wanted to point out is the little black girl in this scene had a white doll. Now, this proves that representation doesn't matter. The doll didn't have to be black for her to enjoy it. People on the left would argue that there were no black dolls, so she didn't have the option of having a black doll. So she had to settle for a white doll. So it actually proves that representation is needed. That is a lie. This cartoon was made in 1989. In the 80s, Cabbage Patch Kids were very popular, and I know that they made black Cabbage Patch dolls because my sister had one. So, this black girl in the show had the option of having a black doll. She simply chose the white doll instead. Anyway, that's about it for this video. I'm Alpha Eagle. God bless you for watching. God bless America. And I pray that people learn the message from this episode and that they realize that bigotry is wrong and that regardless of one's race, anyone can be a bigot.